Also, an idea.
Let's hear it.
Yes, please.
I don't need you. I don't need you.
Room for 3 more?
I don't need you. But I want you to love me. I don't need you. But I want you to know me. Change your mind.
What if something bad happens?
Well, what if something good happens?
I need you. Need you. I need you.
Always.
I need you.
Always.
Need you. I need you.
Always. So why didn't you just come back?
I want to, but I just...
I need you. Need you. I need you.
Always.
I need you.
Always.
Need you. I need you.
Always.
Let's hear it.
I might have overreacted.
Need you. Need you. I need you. Need you. I but I want you to love me. But I want you to know me.
Let's hear it.
I don't love me. I don't know me. But I want you to love me. Change your mind.
Oh, Stephen, there's one more thing I have to mention.
What is it?
I love you. Bye.
See you later.
Join me for an adventure, oh, much like any other, with twists and turns and plot devices, words and wonder. Now my advice is listen close. What makes this story different is the teller and the told. This one's ours and it's waiting to unfold. So come be merry with me. Yeah. Oh, come be merry with me. Come on, be merry with me. Yeah. adventure. Oh, much like any other, with twists and turns and plot devices, words and wonder. Now my advice is listen close. What makes this story different is the teller and the told. This one's ours and it's waiting to unfold. Well, guys, you heard the jingle. This story is ours. It's waiting to unfold. So, I say we go ahead and get started. How's everybody doing? The various masses that I know are tuning in. Sorry, I ought not to be so sarcastic. But welcome, Coleman. Glad you're here, dude. I love you bunches. Snoopy, stop your jamming. Stop it. You get back to reading, my man. This is a reading-only station. We save the jamming for the breaks. Understood? Don't know if I'm looking right at him or not from the camera's angle. Well, yeah, heck yeah. I apologize for being so late tonight. I don't know. I had an interesting day, right? I was a little bit late to something I had in the morning, which was fine. Oh, frick. Thanks, dude. I appreciate it. Let me see. See if I need to look down a little more. You, Snoop. Nice. Yeah, that's it. That's the ticket. Yeah, I had an interesting day. Was a little late to something in the morning, which not the best way to start a day, but hey, you know, we accept those mistakes as they come and strive to do better the moment after it happens, right? Then, like, it was super dreary out. I think it's still, like, raining a little bit. And I do like the rain, but it does make me drowsy, you know? So I laid down for a nap, which proceeded to make me late for another of my engagements today. Yo, what's up, Caro? And I got Colio and Caro. Man, dude, this is gonna be a good night. Oh, I love you guys. Thanks for coming. But yeah, the nap was excellent. Woke up feeling wickedly refreshed, wildly refreshed. But I woke up and was like, well, my alarm didn't go off. That's a thing. So I moseyed on over to my practice. Anyways, I still had like a good 40 minutes of practice. My ankle's been giving me trouble again lately too, so it was kind of okay that I was late, because I mean, well, regardless of how my ankle's doing, it's not okay to be late. I won't allow myself that. But wound up working out somewhat fine, because my ankle, I sprained it like about 5 months ago, a while ago. Maybe it's just 3 months ago. Something like 3 or 4. But jumping right back into practice after taking like 3 months off, pretty much, like from at least the flipping side of things, not necessarily the working out, but from the flipping side of things, I'd taken like a 3-month break, and jumping right back into it, yeah, my ankle was not about it. It had gotten used to the rest that it was given, and so it's been hurting a little bit. But regardless, I'm here now, and I'm happy to be here. I was a little bit late to this though, because I was working on my YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and find Mary Mitch Meadow, that's where I'm gonna be dumping all my streams. Jumping right back into it. Precisely. Oh wait, precisely. I did the snap at my microphone.
My bad. But hell yeah, jumping right back into it. And thankfully I'm still able to do like this stuff. It's just if I don't do it quite right, you know, if I land with my chest down in a backflip or something like that, it scrunches my foot inwards, and like my ankle does not appreciate that. But heck yeah, I have my like YouTube channel all set up now, and I'm gonna be dumping all the streams over there so that it's kind of archived. It tends to fizzle away in the actual Twitch, in the Twitch realm. So yeah, it stays like in my VODs for like about 14 days, but then it vanishes. So I'm starting to actually grab them and put them on YouTube so that they will be there for all eternity, supposedly. Yeah, sorry, that's like a little update of how my day went. Don't know if that was warranted or not, but happy to share. And you know, I'm sorry to hear that, Carol, you had a hard day, but I'm hoping, wishing upon a star, that my little reading here, my little voice acting practice will maybe cheer you up a bit. Wink, smile. Right on. Let's go ahead and start reading. It's already pretty darn late. It's about 10:44. Hoping to finish the stream by about I don't know, honestly, like in an hour and a half, maybe. We'll do another short one like last time. But that means we got to get right into it. So, this is Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Sea of Monsters. Last we left off, Annabeth, Tyson, and... Oh, yo, what's up, Cade? It's good to have you here, dude. Thanks, Coleman. Last we left off, Percy, Annabeth, and Tyson had driven in a cab to get to Half-Blood Hill, and they made it there. But when they got there, they approached a most unsettling sight. There were monsters attacking at the top of Half-Blood Hill, where Thalia's tree resides. The tree that is that harnesses the spirit of Thalia, daughter of Zeus, in order to create a barrier and protect the people within Half-Blood Hill. But these bulls were charging all around the tree. The barrier didn't seem to be holding them back. These bulls were made of bronze, and they were attacking with fierce ferocity, blowing fire all over the place. Clarice and her gaggle of warriors were doing their best to fend them off, but you know, they were struggling. So Percy and Annabeth charge in. They do their best to help Clarice and her gang, and they wind up, after a little bit of a struggle, and after allowing Tyson into Half-Blood Hill, with Tyson's help, in a little bit of a struggle, they eliminate the bulls. Afterwards, Clarice yells at them. They go and have a chit-chat with Chiron, who they found out is actually leaving because he's been blamed for the poisoning of Thalia's tree, which is what has caused the barrier to deteriorate. He's been blamed for it, so they're kicking him out. He's been replaced with some guy from the Fields of Punishment. Not unclear why that is. He seems to maybe be a friend of Dionysus, the camp director. So after, you know, thwarting like the potential danger to Half-Blood Hill, they still are in so much danger because, you know, the barrier is down. But now, we'll go ahead and jump into our next chapter. Again, this is Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters, by Rick Riordan. 6. Demon Pigeons Attack. The next few days were torture, just like Tantalus wanted. First, there was Tyson moving into the Poseidon cabin, giggling to himself every 15 seconds and saying, "Percy is my brother?" Like he just won the lottery. "Oh, Tyson," I'd say, "it's not that simple." But there was no explaining it to him. He was in heaven. And me, as much as I liked the big guy, I couldn't help feeling embarrassed, ashamed. There, I said it. My father, the all-powerful Poseidon, had gotten moony-eyed for some nature spirit, and Tyson had been the result. I mean, I'd read the myths about Cyclopses. I even remembered that they were often Poseidon's children, but I'd never really processed that this made them my family. Until I had Tyson living with me in the next bunk. And then there were the comments from the other campers. Suddenly, I wasn't Percy Jackson, the cool guy who'd retrieved Zeus's lightning bolt last summer. Now, I was Percy Jackson, the poor schmuck with the ugly monster for a brother. "He's not my real brother," I wanted to protest, or I protested whenever Tyson wasn't around. "He's more like a half-brother, on the monstrous side of the family. Like a half-brother twice removed, or something." Nobody bought it. I admit, I was angry at my dad. I felt like being his son, I felt like being his son was now a joke. Annabeth tried to make me feel better. She suggested we team up for the chariot race to take our minds off our problems. Don't get me wrong, we both hated Tantalus, and we were worried sick about camp, but we didn't know what to do about it. Until we could come up with some brilliant plan to save Thalia's tree, we figured we might as well go along with the races. After all, Annabeth's mom, Athena, had invented the chariot, and my dad had created horses. Together, we would own that track. One morning, Annabeth and I were sitting by the canoe lake, sketching chariot designs, when some jokers from Aphrodite's cabin walked by and asked me if I needed to borrow some eyeliner for my eye. "Oh, sorry. Eyes." As they walked away laughing, Annabeth grumbled, "Just ignore them, Percy. It isn't your fault you have a monster for a brother." "He's not my brother," I snapped. "And he's not a monster either." Annabeth raised her eyebrows. "Hey, don't get mad at me. And technically, he is a monster." "Well, you gave him permission to enter the camp." "Because it was the only way to save your life." "I mean, I'm sorry, Percy. I didn't expect Poseidon to claim him. Cyclopses are the most deceitful, treacherous. He is not. What have you got against Cyclopses anyway?" Annabeth's ears turned pink. I got the feeling there was something she wasn't telling me. Something bad. "Just forget it," she said. "Now, the axle for this chariot." "You're treating him like he's this horrible thing," I said. "He saved my life." Annabeth threw down her pencil and stood. "Then maybe you should design a chariot with him." "Maybe I should. Fine. Fine." She stormed off and left me feeling even worse than before. The next couple of days, I tried to keep my mind off my problems. Selena Beauregard, one of the nicer girls from Aphrodite's cabin, gave me my first riding lesson on a Pegasus. She explained that there was only one immortal winged horse named Pegasus, who still wandered free somewhere in the skies, but over the eons, he'd sired a lot of children, none quite so fast or heroic, but all named after the first and greatest. Being the son of the sea god, I never liked going into the air. My dad had this rivalry with Zeus, so I tried to stay out of the Lord of the Sky's domain as much as possible. But riding a winged horse felt different. It didn't make me nearly as nervous as being in an airplane. Maybe that was because my dad had created horses out of seafoam. So the Pegasi were sort of neutral territory. I could understand their thoughts. I wasn't surprised when my Pegasus went galloping over the treetops or chased a flock of seagulls into a cloud. The problem was that Tyson wanted to ride the chicken ponies too, but the Pegasi got skittish whenever he approached. I told them telepathically that Tyson wouldn't hurt them, but they didn't seem to believe me. That made Tyson cry. The only person at camp who had no problems with Tyson was Beckendorf from the Hephaestus cabin. The blacksmith god had always worked with Cyclopses in his forges, so Beckendorf took Tyson down to the armory to teach him metalworking. He said he'd have Tyson crafting magic items like a master in no time. After lunch, I worked out in the arena with Apollo's cabin. Swordplay had always been my strength. People said I was better at it than any camper in the last 100 years, except maybe Luke. People always compared me to Luke. I thrashed the Apollo guys easily. I should have been testing myself against the Ares and Athena cabins, since they had the best sword fighters. But I didn't get along with Clarice and her siblings, and after my argument with Annabeth, I just didn't want to see her. I went to archery class, even though I was terrible at it, and it wasn't the same without Chiron teaching. In arts and crafts, I started a marble bust of Poseidon, but it started looking like Sylvester Stallone, so I ditched it. I scaled the climbing wall in full lava and earthquake mode, and in the evenings, I did border patrol. Even though Tantalus had insisted we forget trying to protect the camp, some of the campers had quietly kept it up, working out a schedule during our free times. I sat at the top of Half-Blood Hill and watched the dryads come and go, singing to the dying pine tree. Satyrs brought their reed pipes and played nature magic songs, and for a while, the pine needles seemed to get fuller. The flowers on the hill smelled a little sweeter, and the grass looked greener. But as soon as the music stopped, the sickness crept back into the air. The whole hill seemed to be infected, dying from the poison that had sunk into the tree's roots. The longer I sat there, the angrier I got. Luke had done this. I remember his sly smile, the dragon claw scar across his face. He pretended to be my friend, and the whole time he'd been Kronos' #1 servant. I opened the palm of my hand. The scar Luke had given me last summer was fading, but I could still see it. A white asterisk-shaped wound where his pit scorpion had stung me. I thought about what Luke had told me right before he tried to kill me. "Goodbye, Percy. There's a new golden age coming. You won't be a part of it." At night, I had more dreams of Grover. Sometimes I just heard snatches of his voice. Once I heard him say, "It's here." Another time, "He likes sheep." I thought about telling Annabeth about my dreams, but I would have felt stupid. I mean, he likes sheep? She would have thought I was crazy. The night before the race, Tyson and I finished our chariot. It was wicked cool. Tyson had made the metal parts in the armory's forges. Excuse me. Tyson had made the metal parts in the armory's forges. I'd sanded the wood and put the carriage together. It was blue and white, with wave designs on the sides and a trident painted on the front. After all that work, it seemed only fair that Tyson would ride shotgun with me, though I knew the horses wouldn't like it, and Tyson's extra weight would slow us down. As we were turning in for bed, Tyson said,
"You are mad?"
I realized I'd been scowling. "Nah, I'm not mad." He lay down in his bunk and was quiet in the dark. His body was way too long for his bed. When he pulled up the covers, his feet stuck out the bottom.
"I am a monster."
"Don't say that."
"It is okay. I will be a good monster. Then you will not have to be mad."
I didn't know what to say. I stared at the ceiling and felt like I was dying slowly, right along with Dolly's tree. It's just, I've never had a half-brother before. I tried to keep my voice from cracking. It's really different for me. And I'm worried about the camp. And another friend of mine, Grover, he might be in trouble. I keep feeling like I should be doing something to help. But I don't know what. Tyson said nothing. "I'm sorry," I told him. "It's not your fault. I'm mad at Poseidon. I feel like he's trying to embarrass me. Like he's trying to compare us or something. And I don't understand why." I heard a deep rumbling sound. Tyson was snoring. I sighed. "Good night, big guy." And I closed my eyes too. In my dream, Grover was wearing a wedding dress. It didn't fit him very well. The gown was too long, and the hem was caked with dried mud. The neckline kept falling off his shoulders. A tattered veil covered his face. He was standing in a dank cave, lit only by torches. There was a cot in one corner and an old-fashioned loom in the other. A length of white cloth half woven on the frame. And he was staring right at me, like I was a TV program he'd been waiting for. "Thank the gods!" he yelped. "Can you hear me?" My dream self was slow to respond. I was still looking around, taking in the stalactite ceiling, the stench of sheep and goats, the growling and grumbling and bleeding sounds that seemed to echo from behind a refrigerator-sized boulder, which was blocking the room's only exit, as if there was a much larger cavern beyond it. "Percy," Grover said, "please, I don't have the strength to project any better. You have to hear me." "I hear you," I said. "Grover, what's going on?" From behind the boulder, a monstrous voice yelled,
"Honey pie, are you done yet?"
Grover flinched. He called out in falsetto, "Not quite, dearest. A few more days."
"Bah! Hasn't it already been 2 weeks?"
No, dearest. Just 5 days. That leaves 12 more to go." The monster was silent, maybe trying to do the math. He must have been worse at arithmetic than I was, because he said,
"All right, but hurry. I want to see under that veil."
Grover turned back to me. "You have to help me. No time. I'm stuck in this cave, on an island in the sea." "Where?" "I don't know exactly. I went to Florida and turned left." "What? How did you—" "It's a trap," Grover said. "It's the reason no satyr has ever returned from this quest. He's a shepherd, Percy. And he has it. Its nature, magic, is so powerful. It smells just like the great god Pan. The satyrs come here thinking they've found Pan, and they get trapped and eaten by Polyphemus, Polly who? The Cyclops, Grover said, exasperated. I almost got away. I made it all the way to St. Augustine. But he followed you, I said, remembering my first dream. And trapped you in a bridal boutique. That's right, Grover said. My first empathy link must have worked then. Look, this bridal dress is the only thing keeping me alive. He thinks I smell good, but I told him it was just goat-scented perfume. Thank goodness he can't see very well. His eye is still half blind from the last time somebody poked it out. But soon he'll realize what I am. He's only giving me 2 weeks to finish the bridal train, and he's getting impatient. Wait a minute. The Cyclops thinks you're... Yes, Grover wailed. He thinks I'm a lady Cyclops, and he wants to marry me. Under different circumstances, I might have busted out laughing, but Grover's voice was deadly serious. He was shaking with fear. I'll come rescue you, I promised. Where are you? The Sea of Monsters, of course. The Sea of what? I told you. I don't know exactly where. And look, Percy, I'm really sorry about this. This empathy link, well, I had no choice. Our emotions are connected now. If I die... Don't tell me. I'll die too. Oh, well, perhaps not. But you might live for years in a vegetative state. But, it would be a lot better if you got me out of here.
Honey pie!
The monster bellowed.
Dinner time! Yummy, yummy! Sheep meat!
Grover whimpered. I have to go. Hurry! Wait, you said it was here. What? Grover's voice was already growing fainter. Sweet dreams. Don't let me die. The dream faded, and I woke with a start. It was early morning. Tyson was staring down at me, his one big brown eye full of concern.
Are you okay?
He asked. His voice sent a chill down my back, because he sounded almost exactly like the monster I'd heard in my dream. The morning of the race was hot and humid. Fog lay low on the ground like sauna steam. Millions of birds were roosting in the trees, fat gray and white pigeons, except they didn't coo like regular pigeons. They made this annoying metallic screeching sound that reminded me of a submarine radar. The racetrack had been built in a grassy field between the archery range and the woods. Hephaestus's cabin had used the bronze bowls, which were completely tame since they'd had their heads smashed in, to plow an oval track in a matter of minutes. There were rows of stone steps for the spectators. Tantalus, the satyrs, a few dryads, and all of the campers who weren't participating. Mr. D didn't show. He never got up before 10 o'clock. Right, Tantalus announced as the teams began to assemble. A naiad had brought him a platter of pastries, and as Tantalus spoke, his right hand chased a chocolate eclair across the judges' table. You all know the rules. A quarter-mile track, twice around to win. 2 horses per chariot. Each team will consist of a driver and a fighter. Weapons are allowed. Dirty tricks are expected. But try not to kill anybody. Tantalus smiled at us like we were all naughty children. Any killing will result in harsh punishment. No s'mores at the campfire for a week. Now, ready your chariots. Beckendorf led the Hephaestus team onto the track. They had a sweet ride made of bronze and iron. Even the horses, which were magical automatons like the Clochis bulls, or like the Colchis bulls. I had no doubt that their chariot had all kinds of mechanical traps and more fancy options than a full-loaded Maserati. The Ares chariot was blood red, and pulled by 2 grisly horse skeletons. Clarice climbed aboard with a batch of javelins, spiked balls, caltrops, and a bunch of other nasty toys. Apollo's chariot was trim and graceful, and completely gold, pulled by 2 beautiful Palominos. Their fighter was armed with a bow, though he had promised not to shoot regular pointed arrows at the opposing drivers. Hermes' chariot was green, and kind of old-looking, as if it hadn't been out of the garage in years. It didn't look like anything special, but it was manned by the Stoll brothers, and I shuddered to think what dirty tricks they'd schemed up. That left 2 chariots, one driven by Annabeth, and the other by me. Before the race began, I tried to approach Annabeth and tell her about my dream. She perked up when I mentioned Grover, but when I told her what he'd said, she seemed to get distant again. Suspicious. "You're trying to distract me," she decided. "What? No, I'm not." "Oh, right. Like Grover would just happen to stumble across the one thing that could save the camp?" "What do you mean?" She rolled her eyes. "Go back to your chariot, Percy." I'm not making this up. He's in trouble, Annabeth." She hesitated. I could tell she was trying to decide whether or not to trust me. Despite our occasional fights, we'd been through a lot together, and I knew she would never want anything bad to happen to Grover. "Percy, an empathy link is so hard to do. I mean, it's more likely you really were dreaming." "The Oracle," I said. "We could consult the Oracle." Annabeth frowned. Last summer before my quest, I'd visited the strange spirit that lived in the big house attic, and it had given me a prophecy that came true in ways I'd never expected. The experience had freaked me out for months. Annabeth knew I'd never suggest going back there if I wasn't completely serious. Before she could answer, the conch horn sounded. "Charioteers," Tantalus called, "to your mark." "We'll talk later," Annabeth told me. "After I win." As I walked back to my own chariot, I noticed how many more pigeons were in the trees now, screeching like crazy, making the whole forest rustle. Nobody else seemed to be paying them much attention, but they made me nervous. Their beaks glinted strangely. Their eyes seemed shinier than regular birds. Tyson was having trouble getting our horses under control. I had to talk to them for a long time before they would settle down.
"He's a monster, Lord,"
they complained to me.
"He's a son of Poseidon."
He's a son of Poseidon, I told them. Just like, like me.
"No,"
they insisted.
"Monster, horse-eater, not trusted."
"I'll give you sugar cubes at the end of the race," I said.
"Sugar cubes?"
"Very big sugar cubes. And apples. Did I mention the apples?" Finally, they agreed to let me harness them. Now, if you've never seen a Greek chariot, it's built for speed, not safety or comfort. It's basically a wooden basket, open at the back, mounted on an axle between 2 wheels. The driver stands up the whole time, and you can feel every bump in the road. The carriage is made of such light wood that if you wipe out making the hairpin turns at either end of the track, you'll probably tip over and crush both the chariot and yourself. It's an even better rush than skateboarding. I took the reins and maneuvered the chariot to the starting line. I gave Tyson a 10-foot pole and told him that his job was to push the other chariots away they got too close, and to deflect anything they might try to throw at us.
No hitting ponies with the stick,
he insisted. No, I agreed. Or people either, if you can help it. We're going to run a clean race. Just keep the distractions away and let me concentrate on driving.
We will win!
He beamed. We were so going to lose, I thought to myself, but I had to try. I wanted to show the others. Well, I wasn't sure what, exactly. That Tyson wasn't such a bad guy. That I wasn't ashamed of being seen with him in public. Maybe that they hadn't hurt me with all their jokes and name-calling. As the chariots lined up, more shiny-eyed pigeons gathered in the woods. They were screeching so loudly, the campers in the stands were starting to take notice, glancing nervously at the trees, which shivered under the weight of the birds. Tantalus didn't look concerned, but he did have to speak up to be heard over the noise. "Charioteers!" he shouted. "Attend your mark!" He waved his hand and the starting signal dropped. The chariots roared to life. Hooves thundered against the dirt. The crowd cheered. Almost immediately, there was a loud, nasty crack. I looked back in time to see the Apollo chariot flip over. The Hermes chariot had rammed into it. Maybe by mistake, maybe not. The riders were thrown free, but their panicked horses dragged the golden chariot diagonally across the track. The Hermes team, Travis and Connor Stoll, were laughing at their good luck, but not for long. The Apollo horses crashed into theirs, and the Hermes chariot flipped too, leaving a pile of broken wood and 4 rearing horses in the dust. 2 chariots down in the first 20 feet. I loved this sport. I turned my attention back to the front. We were making good time, pulling ahead of Ares, but Annabeth's chariot was way ahead of us. She was already making her turn around the first post, her javelin man grinning and waving at us, shouting, "See ya!" The Hephaestus chariot was starting to gain on us too. Beckendorf pressed a button, and a panel slid open on the side of his chariot. "Sorry, Percy," he yelled. 3 sets of balls and chains shot straight toward our wheels. They would have wrecked us completely if Tyson hadn't whacked them aside with a quick swipe of his pole. He gave the Hephaestus chariot a good shove and sent them skittering sideways while we pulled ahead. "Nice work, Tyson!" I yelled.
"Birds!"
he cried. "What?" We were whipping along so fast, it was hard to hear or see anything, but Tyson pointed towards the woods, and I saw what he was worrying about. The pigeons had risen from the trees. They were spiraling like a huge tornado, heading toward the track. No big deal, I told myself. They're just pigeons. I tried to concentrate on the race. We made our first turn, the wheels creaking under us, the chariot threatening to tip, but we were now only 10 feet behind Annabeth. If I could just get a little closer, Tyson could use his pole. Annabeth's fighter wasn't smiling now. He pulled the javelin from his collection and took aim at me. He was about to throw when he heard the screaming. The pigeons were swarming, thousands of them dive-bombing the spectators in the stands, attacking the other chariots. Beckendorf was mobbed. His fighter tried to bat the birds away, but he couldn't see anything. The chariot veered off course and plowed through the strawberry fields, the mechanical horses steaming. In the Ares chariot, Clarice barked an order to her fighter, who quickly threw a screen of camouflage netting over their basket. The birds swarmed around it, pecking and clawing at the fighter's hands as he tried to hold up the net, but Clarice just gritted her teeth and kept driving. Her skeletal horses seemed immune to the distraction. The pigeons pecked uselessly at their empty eye sockets and flew through their rib cages, but the stallions kept right on running. The spectators weren't so lucky. The birds were slashing at any bit of exposed flesh, driving everyone into a panic. Now that the birds were closer, it was very clear they weren't normal pigeons. Their eyes were beady and evil-looking. Their beaks were made of bronze, and judging by the yelps of the campers, they must have been razor sharp. "Stymphalian birds!" Annabeth yelled. She slowed down and pulled her chariot alongside mine. "They'll strip everyone to bones if we don't drive them away." "Tyson," I said, "we're turning around."
Going the wrong way?
He asked. "Always," I grumbled, and I steered the chariot toward the stands. Annabeth rode right next to me. She shouted, "Heroes, to arms!" But I wasn't sure anyone could hear her over the screeching of the birds and the general chaos. I held my reins in one hand and managed to draw Riptide as a wave of birds dived at my face, their metal beaks snapping. I slashed them out of the air, and they exploded into the dust and feathers. But there were still millions of them left. One nailed me in the back end, and I almost jumped straight out of the chariot. Annabeth wasn't having much better luck. The closer we got to the stands, the thicker the cloud of birds became. Some of the spectators were trying to fight back. The Athena campers were calling for shields. The archers from Apollo's cabin brought out their bows and arrows, ready to slay the menace. But with so many campers mixed in with the birds, it wasn't safe to shoot. "Too many!" I yelled to Annabeth. "How do we get rid of them?" She stabbed a pigeon with her knife. Hercules used noise, brass bells. He scared them away with the most horrible sound he could." Her eyes got wide. "Percy! Chiron's collection!" I understood instantly. "You think it'll work?" She handed her fighter the reins and leapt from her chariot into mine, like it was the easiest thing in the world. "To the big house! It's our only chance!" Clarice has just pulled across the finish line, completely unopposed, and seemed to notice for the first time how serious the bird problem was. When she saw us driving away, she yelled, "You're running? The fight is here, cowards!" She drew her sword and charged for the stands. I urged our horses into a gallop. The chariot rumbled through the strawberry fields, across the volleyball pit, and launched to a halt in front of the big house. Annabeth and I ran inside, tearing down the hallway to Chiron's apartment. His boombox was still on his nightstand. So were his favorite CDs. We grabbed the most repulsive one I could find. I grabbed the most repulsive one I could find, and Beth snatched the boombox. Together we ran outside. Down at the track, the chariots were in flames. Wounded campers ran in every direction, with birds shredding their clothes and pulling out their hair, while Tantalus chased breakfast pastries around the stands, every once in a while yelling, "Everything's under control! Not to worry!" We pulled up to the finish line, and Beth got the boombox ready. I prayed the batteries weren't dead. I pressed play and started up Chiron's favorite, the all-time greatest hits of Dean Martin. Suddenly the air was filled with violins and a bunch of guys moaning in Italian. The demon pigeons went nuts. They started flying in circles, running into each other like they wanted to bash their own brains out. Then they abandoned the track altogether and flew skyward in a huge dark wave. "Now!" Annabeth shouted. "Archers!" With clear targets, Apollo's archers had flawless aim. Most of them could knock 5 or 6 arrows at once, within minutes. The ground was littered with dead bronze-beaked pigeons, and the survivors were a distant trail of smoke on the horizon. The camp was saved, but the wreckage wasn't pretty. Most of the chariots had been completely destroyed. Almost everyone was wounded, bleeding from multiple bird pecks. The kids from Aphrodite's cabin were screaming because their hairdos had been ruined and their clothes pooped on. Bravo, Tantalus said, but he wasn't looking at me or Annabeth. We have our first winner! He walked to the finish line and awarded the golden laurels for the race to a stunned-looking Clarice. Then he turned and smiled at me. And now, to punish the troublemakers who disrupted this race. Oh. But they're the saviors. Tantalus, you dog. Oh, yo, what's up, May? A quality stream, I see. I don't think you're going to read this, but just in case. Good night, buddy. Still such a quality stream. Don't worry. I read them during the breaks. After each chapter, take a little breather, speak about, how I felt about the chapters. But dang, nice. And, wow, they followed too. That's a beautiful thing right there. Hope to be seeing ya in another stream. Soon enough. That was an exciting chapter. I forgot about the birds. These pigeons deserve better. I know, right? Not freaking, what was it? Dean Martin. Oh, golly. Golly cheapers, guys. Yeah, man. Could have at least played, like, Smash Mouth or something, right? Right? I don't know. What song would you have played to get rid of the pigeons? That's what I want to know. That was a sweet chapter. Dude, the dream sequence too, with the emotion like connection link from Grover, that's such a good part. When you first realize his scenario. Which I know like it does the whole thing in there, which, Percy's like, under different circumstances, I might have burst out laughing, but his tone was deadly serious. But if we take a step back and look at that scenario, I don't know. It really is a funny situation. Poor Grover. I would play a good song to befriend them. That's true, dude. If I had an army of like bronze, deadly, sharp-beaked pigeons, I'd probably be unstoppable, right? Yeah, poor Grover. I hope I did a good like falsetto Goatman voice. I think I did all right with it. I also am gonna I want to work on Tyson's voice a little more. I keep giving him like almost like a whiny tone, no matter what he says. And I don't want to do that. I want to be able to give him more variety, Like I still want that kind of like dopey, vibe, but I want like the inflection to be clear, depending on what he's saying. Nice. That was a darn sweet chapter. Dude, and Annabeth and Percy are fighting. I don't like this. I forgot that they do have little bouts and debacles, as kids are wont to do, but still, I don't like it. I have done it. I have reached peak dopey. Thank goodness. That's my main goal as an aspiring voice actor. No doubt, though, it's an important thing to be able to draw out of myself some peak dopiness. I feel like I'm already pretty dopey usually. At least when I'm in a good mood, I tend to be dopey. I say I reach maximum goober levels at an alarming rate. Well, nice guys. All right, don't go anywhere, but we are gonna jump to a break here. I'll play a couple of my jams, my various tunes that I've made over the years. It's truly not that far of a stretch. Yeah, no, you're right. Too true. So yeah, we're gonna jump to a break. Don't go nowhere. I urge everybody to stand up, stretch out a little bit. You know, it's important when we're sitting at desks or just sitting down really in general for long periods of time to get up at some point, move around, jump up and down, you know, do something. Yeah, get yourself some water, some drink, some kind of refreshment. If you need it, use the bathroom. And we'll be back in about 5 minutes. All right, cool. Don't go nowhere and enjoy the tunes. I'll be seeing you very soon. Wonk.
We're in. We're live. So,
Submerge the device in liquid, even partially.
this should be fun. I should probably leave for this, huh? This seems kind of dangerous. You guys don't do this without me. Uh-oh. Oh. Let's do it. Yeah.
Begone, thought.
Hello. Is there grapefruit in real life? Yeah, it's me. I'm that. How should... Oh, this is... this is kind of amazing and kind of dumb. Are you guys ready for this? What a great ending. Alright, we're not done though. That's it.
Lately when we talk, we get confused, so I choose to stay quiet for fear of hurting you. For fear of losing you, and I both know that. Lately when we talk, we get confused, so I choose to stay quiet for fear of hurting you. For fear of losing you, and I both know that.
It's been forever.
We may have grown apart, but we have grown nonetheless, and we can start again. And then, at last, we can be genuine.
I think she may need a little more time. Yeah.
You and I both know that.
How come we didn't spend more time together? Why didn't we just talk to each other more? Why didn't we?
You and I both know that.
Didn't we?
We can start again. Lately when we talk, we get confused, so I choose to stay quiet for fear of hurting you. For fear of losing you, and I both know that. Lately when we talk, we get confused, so I choose to stay quiet for fear of hurting you. For fear of losing you, and I both know that.
It's been forever.
We may have grown apart, but we have grown nonetheless, and we can start again, and then at last we can be genuine. Please be genuine. You and I both know that.
Whoa! 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 Welcome back. Oh, sorry. I took off my diddly darn glasses. There we go. Much better. No. Well, check it out, dude. Face reveal. Yeah. Anyways, glad to be back. Hope everybody had as splendid a break as me. As always, I got up, I made water, I came back, stretched it out, and then listened to the jams for a bit before showing up, appearing before you. Okay, well, without any ado, let's jump into... Yeah, dude, I made water. It's this magical thing that humans do sometimes. I think most people think it's gross, but it's really a miracle, right? I'm talking about going to the bathroom, dude. Okay. We're jumping right into chapter 7. Again, this is Percy Jackson The Sea of Monsters by Rick Riordan. 7. I accept gifts from a stranger. The way Tantalus saw it, the Stymphalian birds had simply been minding their own business in the woods, and would not have attacked if Annabeth, Tyson, and I hadn't disturbed them with our bad chariot driving. This was so completely unfair. I told Tantalus to go chase a donut, which didn't help his mood. He sentenced us to kitchen patrol, scrubbing pots and platters all afternoon in the underground kitchen with the cleaning harpies. The harpies washed with lava instead of water to get that extra clean sparkle and kill 99.9% of all germs. So Annabeth and I had to wear asbestos gloves and aprons. Tyson didn't mind. He plunged his bare hands right in and started scrubbing. But Annabeth and I had to suffer through hours of hot, dangerous work, especially since there were tons of extra plates. Tantalus had ordered a special luncheon banquet to celebrate Clarice's chariot victory. A full-course meal featuring country-fried Stymphalian death bird. The only good thing about our punishment was that it gave Annabeth and me a common enemy, and lots of time to talk. After listening to my dream about Grover again, she looked like she might be starting to believe me. "If he's really found it," she murmured, "and if we could retrieve it." "Hold on," I said. You act like this, whatever it is Grover found, is the only thing in the world that could save the camp. What is it?" "I'll give you a hint. What do you get when you skin a ram?" "Messy," she sighed. "A fleece. The coat of a ram is called a fleece. And if the ram happens to have golden wool..." "The golden fleece. Are you serious?" Annabeth scraped a plate of deathbird bones into the lava. "Percy, remember the Grey Sisters? They said they knew the location of the thing you seek. And they mentioned Jason. 3,000 years ago, they told him how to find the Golden Fleece. You do know the story of Jason and the Argonauts?" "Yeah," I said. "That old movie with the clay skeletons." Annabeth rolled her eyes. "Oh my gods, Percy. You were so hopeless." "What?" I demanded. "Just listen. The real story of the fleece. There were these two children of Zeus, Cadmus and Europa, okay? They were about to get offered up as human sacrifices when they prayed to Zeus to save them. So Zeus sent this magical flying ram with golden wool, which picked them up in Greece and carried them all the way to Colchis in Asia Minor. Well, actually, it carried Cadmus. Europa fell off and died along the way, but that's not important. It was probably important to her. The point is, when Cadmus got to Colchis, he sacrificed the golden ram to the gods and hung the fleece in a tree in the middle of the kingdom. The fleece brought prosperity to the land. Animals stopped getting sick. Plants grew better. Farmers had bumper crops. Plagues never visited. That's why Jason wanted the fleece. It can revitalize any land where it's placed. It cures sickness, strengthens nature, cleans up pollution. It could cure Athalia's tree." Annabeth nodded. "And it would totally strengthen the borders of Camp Half-Blood. But Percy, the fleece has been missing for centuries. Tons of heroes have searched for it with no luck." "But Grover found it," I said. "He went looking for Pan, and he found the fleece instead, because they both radiate nature magic." "It makes sense, Annabeth. We can rescue him and save the camp at the same time. It's perfect." Annabeth hesitated. "A little too perfect, don't you think? What if it's a trap? I remembered last summer how Kronos had manipulated our quest. He'd almost fooled us into helping him start a war that would have destroyed Western civilization. "What choice do we have?" I said, or I asked. "Are you going to help me rescue Grover or not?" She glanced at Tyson, who'd lost interest in our conversation and was happily making toy boats out of cups and spoons in the lava. "Percy," she said under her breath, "we'll have to fight a Cyclops. Polyphemus, the worst of the Cyclopses. And there's only one place his island could be. The Sea of Monsters." "Where's that?" She stared at me like she thought I was playing dumb. "The Sea of Monsters. The same sea Odysseus sailed through. And Jason. And, Aeneas. And all the others." "You mean the Mediterranean?" "No. Well, yes. But no." Another straight answer. "Thanks. Look, Percy, the Sea of Monsters is the sea all heroes sail through on their adventures. It used to be in the Mediterranean, yes, but like everything else, it shifts location as the West's center of power shifts." "Like Mount Olympus being above the Empire State Building," I said, "and Hades being under Los Angeles." "Right. But a whole sea full of monsters. How could you hide something like that? Wouldn't the mortals notice weird things happening? Like ships getting eaten and stuff?" "Of course they notice. They don't understand, but they know something is strange about that part of the ocean. The Sea of Monsters is off the east coast of the U.S. now. Just northeast of Florida. The mortals even have a name for it." "The Bermuda Triangle?" "Exactly." I let that sink in. I guess it wasn't stranger than anything else I'd learned since coming to Camp Half-Blood. "Okay, so at least we know where to look." "It's still a huge area, Percy. Searching for one tiny island in monster-infested waters." "Hey, I'm the son of the sea god. This is my home turf. How hard can it be?" Annabeth knit her eyebrows. "We'll have to talk to Tantalus, get approval for a quest. He'll say no." "Not if we tell him tonight at the campfire in front of everybody. The whole camp will hear. They'll pressure him. He won't be able to refuse." "Maybe." A little bit of hope crept into Annabeth's voice. "We'd better get these dishes done. Hand me the lava spray gun, will you?" The night at the campfire, Apollo's cabin led a sing-along. They tried to get everybody's spirits up, but it wasn't easy after the afternoon's bird attack. We all sat around in a semicircle of stone steps. Singing half-heartedly and watching the bonfire blaze while the Apollo guys strummed their guitars and picked their lyres. We did all the standard camp numbers. Down by the Aegean, "I am my own great-great-great-great-grandpa. This land is Minos' land." The bonfire was enchanted. I'm sorry. I haven't... Sorry, those are clever. The bonfire was enchanted, so the louder you sang, the higher it rose, changing in color and heat with the mood of the crowd. On a good night, I'd seen it 20 feet high, bright purple, and so hot the whole front row's marshmallows burst into flames. Tonight, the fire was only 5 feet high, barely warm, and the flames weren't the color of lint. Dionysus left early. After suffering through a few songs, he muttered something about how even Pinnacle with Chiron had been more exciting than this. Then he gave Tantalus a distasteful look and headed back toward the big house. When the last song was over, Tantalus said, "Well, that was lovely." He came forward with a toasted marshmallow on a stick and tried to pluck it off, real casual-like. But before he could touch it, the marshmallow flew off the stick. Tantalus made a wild grab, but the marshmallow committed suicide, diving into the flames. Tantalus turned back towards us, smiling coldly.
Now then, some announcements about tomorrow's schedule.
Sir, I said. Tantalus's eye twitched.
Our kitchen boy has something to say.
Some of the Ares campers snickered, but I wasn't going to let anybody embarrass me into silence. I stood and looked at Annabeth. Thank the gods she stood up with me. I said, "We have an idea to save the camp." Dead silence, but I could tell I'd gotten everybody's interest, because the campfire flared bright yellow.
Indeed,
Tantalus said blandly.
Well, if it has anything to do with chariots...
The Golden Fleece, I said. We know where it is. The flames burned orange. Before Tantalus could stop me, I blurted out my dream about Grover and Polyphemus's island. Polyphemus's island. Annabeth stepped in and reminded everybody what the fleece could do. It sounded more convincing coming from her. The fleece can save the camp, she concluded. I'm certain of it.
Nonsense, said Tantalus. We don't need saving.
Everybody stared at him until Tantalus started looking uncomfortable.
Besides,
he said quickly,
the Sea of Monsters? That's hardly an exact location. You wouldn't even know where to look.
Yes, I would, I said, and Beth leaned toward me and whispered, You would? I nodded, because Annabeth had jogged something in my memory when she reminded me about our taxi drive with the Gray sisters. At the time, the information they'd given me made no sense. But now... 30, 31, 75, 12, I said.
Okay, Tantalus said. Thank you for sharing those meaningless numbers.
They're sailing coordinates, I said. Latitude and longitude. I, learned about it in social studies. Even Annabeth looked impressed. 30 degrees, 31 minutes north, 75 degrees, 12 minutes west. Oh, 30 degrees, 31 minutes north, 75 degrees, 12 minutes west. He's right. The Gray sisters gave us those coordinates. That'd be somewhere in the Atlantic, off the coast of Florida. The Sea of Monsters. Oh, we need a quest.
Wait just a minute,
Tantalus said, but the campers took up a chant. We need a quest. We need a quest. The flames rose higher.
It isn't necessary,
Tantalus insisted. We need a quest. We need a quest.
Fine,
Tantalus shouted, his eyes blazing with anger.
You brats want me to sign a quest?
Yes.
Very well,
he agreed.
I shall authorize a champion to undertake this perilous journey, to retrieve the Golden Fleece and bring it back to camp, or die trying.
My heart filled with excitement. I wasn't going to let Tantalus scare me. This was what I needed to do. I was going to save Grover and the camp. Nothing would stop me.
I will allow our champion to consult the oracle,
Tantalus announced,
and choose 2 companions for the journey. And I think the choice of champion is obvious.
Tantalus looked at Annabeth and me as if he wanted to flay us alive.
The champion should be one who has earned the camp's respect, who has proven resourceful in the chariot races and courageous in the defense of the camp. You shall lead this quest. Clarice!
The fire flickered 1,000 different colors. The Ares cabin started stomping and cheering. Clarice! Clarice! Clarice stood up, looking stunned. Then she swallowed, and her chest swelled with pride. I accept this quest. Wait! I shouted. Grover is my friend. The dream came to me. Sit down, yelled one of the Ares campers. You had your chance last summer. Yeah, he just wants to be in the spotlight again, another said. Clarice glared at me. I accept this quest, she repeated. I, Clarice, daughter of Ares, will save this camp. The Ares campers cheered even louder. Annabeth protested, and the other Athena campers joined in. Everybody else started taking sides, shouting and arguing, and throwing marshmallows. I thought it was going to turn into a full-fledged s'more war, until Tantalus shouted, Silence, you brats! His tone stunned even me. Sit down, he ordered, and I will tell you all a ghost story. I didn't know what he was up to, but we all moved reluctantly back to our seats. The evil aura radiating from Tantalus was as strong as any monster I'd ever faced. Once upon a time, there was a mortal king who was beloved by the gods. Tantalus put his hand on his chest. I got the feeling he was talking about himself. The king, he said, was even allowed to feast on Mount Olympus. But when he tried to take some ambrosia and nectar back to Earth to figure out the recipe, just one little doggy bag, mind you, the gods punished him. They banned him from their halls forever. His own people mocked him. His children scolded him. And oh yes, campers, he had horrible children. Children just like you. He pointed a crooked finger at several people in the audience, including me. Do you know what he did to his ungrateful children? Tantalus asked softly. Do you know how he paid back the gods for their cruel punishment? He invited the Olympians to a feast at his palace, just to show there were no hard feelings. No one noticed that his children were missing. And when he served the gods dinner, my dear campers, can you guess what was in the stew? No one dared answer. The firelight glowed dark blue, reflecting evilly on Tantalus's crooked face. Oh, the gods punished him in the afterlife, Tantalus croaked. They did indeed. But he'd had his moment of satisfaction, hadn't he? His children never spoke back to him or questioned his authority. And you know what? Rumor has it that the king's spirit now dwells at this very camp, waiting for a chance to take revenge on ungrateful, rebellious children. And so, are there any more complaints before we send Clarice off on her quest? Silence. Tantalus nodded at Clarice. The oracle, my dear. Go on. She shifted uncomfortably, like even she didn't want glory at the price of being Tantalus's pet. Sir. Go, he snarled. She bowed awkwardly and hurried off towards the big house. What about you, Percy Jackson? Tantalus asked. No comments from the dishwasher? I didn't say anything. I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of punishing me again. Good, Tantalus said.
And let me remind everyone, no one leaves this camp without my permission. Anyone who tries, well, if they survive the attempt, they will be expelled forever. But it won't come to that. The Harpies will be enforcing curfew from now on, and they are always hungry. Good night, my dear campers. Sleep well.
With a wave of Tantalus's hand, the fire was extinguished, and the campers trailed off toward their cabins in the dark. I couldn't explain things to Tyson. He knew I was sad. He knew I wanted to go on a trip, and Tantalus wouldn't let me.
You'll go anyway,
he asked. I don't know, I admitted. It would be hard. Very hard.
I will help.
No, I couldn't ask you to do that, big guy. Too dangerous. Tyson looked down at the pieces of metal he was assembling in his lap. Springs and gears and tiny wires. Beckendorf had given him some tools and spare parts, and now Tyson spent every night tinkering, though I wasn't sure how his huge hands could handle such delicate little pieces. What are you building? I asked. Tyson didn't answer. Instead, he made a whimpering sound in the back of his throat.
Annabeth doesn't like Cyclopses. You don't want me along.
Oh, that's not it, I said half-heartedly. Annabeth likes you, really. He had tears in the corners of his eyes. I remembered that Grover, like all satyrs, could read human emotions. I wonder if Cyclopses had the same ability. Tyson folded up his tinkering project in an oilcloth. He lay down on his bunk bed and hugged his bundle like a teddy bear. When he turned toward the wall, I could see the weird scars on his back, like somebody had plowed over him with a tractor. I wondered for the millionth time how he'd gotten hurt.
Daddy always cared for me,
he sniffled.
No, I think he was mean to have a Cyclops boy. I should not have been born.
Don't talk that way. Poseidon claimed you, didn't he? So, he must care about you. A lot. My voice trailed off as I thought about all those years Tyson had lived on the streets of New York in a cardboard refrigerator box. How could Tyson think that Poseidon had cared for him? What kind of dad let that happen to his kids? Even if his kid was a monster. Tyson, camp will be a good home for you. The others will get used to you, I promise. Tyson sighed. I waited for him to say something. Then I realized he was already asleep. I lay back on my bed and tried to close my eyes, but I just couldn't. I was afraid I might have another dream about Grover. If the empathy link was real, if something happened to Grover, would I ever wake up? The full moon shone through my window. The sound of the surf rumbled in the distance. I could smell the warm scent of strawberry fields and hear the laughter of the dryads as they chased owls through the forest. But something felt wrong about the night. The sickness of Thalia's tree spreading across the valley. Could Clarice save Half-Blood Hill? I thought the odds were better of me getting a Best Camper award from Tantalus. I got out of bed and pulled on some clothes. I grabbed a beach blanket and a 6-pack of Coke from under my bunk. The Cokes were against the rules. No outside snacks or drinks were allowed. But if you talked to the right guy in the Hermes cabins and paid him a few golden drachma, he could smuggle in almost anything from the nearest convenience store. Stinking out after curfew was against the rules, too. If I got caught, I'd either be in big trouble or eaten by the harpies. But I wanted to see the ocean. I always felt better there. My thoughts were clearer. I left the cabin, headed for the beach. I spread my blanket near the surf and popped open a Coke. For some reason, sugar and caffeine always calmed my hyperactive brain. I tried to decide what to do to save the camp, but nothing came to me. I wished Poseidon would talk to me. Give me some advice or something. The sky was clear and starry. I was checking out the constellations Annabeth had taught me. Sagittarius, Hercules, Corona Borealis, and somebody said, "Beautiful, aren't they?" I almost spewed my soda. Oh. Beautiful, aren't they? I almost spewed my soda. Standing right next to me was a guy in nylon running shorts and a New York City Marathon t-shirt. He was slim and fit, with salt and pepper hair and a sly smile. He looked kind of familiar, but I couldn't figure out why. My first thought was that he must have been taking a midnight jog down the beach and strayed inside the camp borders. That wasn't supposed to happen. Regular mortals couldn't enter the valley, but maybe with the tree's magic weakening, he'd managed to slip in. But in the middle of the night, there was nothing around except farmland and state preserves. Where would this guy have jogged from? "May I join you?" "May I join you?" he asked. "I haven't sat down in ages." Now I know. A strange guy in the middle of the night. Common sense. I was supposed to run away, yell for help, etc. But this guy acted so calm about the whole thing, I found it hard to be afraid. I said, "Sure." He smiled. "Your hospitality does you credit. Oh, and Coca-Cola. May I?" He sat at the other end of the blanket, popped a soda, and took a drink. "Ah, that hits the spot. Peace and quiet at..." A cell phone went off in his pocket. The jogger sighed. He pulled out his phone, and my eyes got big, because it glowed with a bluish light. When he extended the antenna, two creatures began writhing around it. Green snakes, no bigger than earthworms. The jogger didn't seem to notice. He checked his LCD display and cursed. "I've got to take this. Just a sec." Then into the phone. "Hello?" He listened. The many snakes writhed up and down the antenna right next to his ear. "Yeah," the jogger said. "Listen, I know, but I don't care if he is chained to a rock with vultures pecking at his liver. If he doesn't have a tracking number, we can't locate his package. A gift to humankind, great. You know how many of those we deliver? Oh, never mind. Listen, just refer him to Eris in customer service. I gotta go." He hung up. "Sorry, the overnight express business is just booming. Now, as I was saying, you have snakes on your phone." "What?" "Oh, they don't bite. Say hello, George and Martha." "Say hello, George and Martha."
"Hello, George and Martha," a raspy male voice said inside my head.
"Don't be sarcastic," said a female voice.
"Why not?" George demanded. "I do all the real work."
"Oh, let's not go into that again." The jogger slipped his phone back into his pocket. "Now, where were we? Ah, yes. Peace and quiet." He crossed his ankles and stared up at the stars. "Been a long time since I've gotten to relax. Ever since the telegraph. Rush, rush, rush. Do you have a favorite constellation, Percy?" I was still kind of wondering about the little green snakes he'd shoved into his jogging shorts, but I said, I like Hercules." "Why?" "Well, he had rotten luck. Even worse than mine. It makes me feel better. The jogger chuckled. Not because he was strong and famous and all that? No. You're an interesting young man. And so, what now? I knew immediately what he was asking. What did I intend to do about the fleece? Before I could answer, Martha the Snake's muffled voice came from his pocket. I have to meet her online too. Not now, the jogger said. Tell her to leave a message. She's not going to like that. The last time you put her off, all the flowers in the floral delivery division wilted. Just tell her I'm in a meeting. The jogger rolled his eyes. Sorry again, Percy. You were saying. Who are you exactly? Haven't you guessed by now? A smart boy like you? Show him, Martha pleaded. I haven't been full size for months. Don't listen to her, George said. She just wants to show off. The man took out his phone again. Original form, please. The phone glowed a brilliant blue. It stretched into a 3-foot-long wooden staff with dove wings sprouting at the top. George and Martha, now full-sized green snakes, coiled together around the middle. It was a caduceus, the symbol of Cabin 11. My throat tightened. I realized who the jogger reminded me of, with his elvish features, the mischievous twinkle in his eyes. You're Luke's father, I said. Hermes. The god pursed his lips. He stuck his caduceus in the sand like an umbrella pole. Luke's father? Normally that's not the first way people introduce me. God of thieves? Yes. God of messengers and travelers, if they wish to be kind.
God of thieves works, George said.
Oh, don't mind George. Martha flicked her tongue at me. He's just bitter because Hermes likes me best.
He does not.
Does too. Behave, you two, Hermes warned, or I'll turn you back into a cell phone and set you on vibrate. Now, Percy, you still haven't answered my question. What do you intend to do about the quest? I don't have permission to go. No, indeed. Will that stop you? I want to go. I have to save Grover. Hermes smiled. I knew a boy once. Oh, younger than you by far. A mere baby, really.
Here we go again, George said. Always talking about himself.
Quiet, Martha snapped. Do you want to get set on vibrate? Hermes ignored them. One night, when this boy's mother wasn't watching, he sneaked out of their cave and stole some cattle that belonged to Apollo. Did he get blasted to tiny pieces? I asked. No. Actually, everything turned out quite well. To make up for his theft, the boy gave Apollo an instrument he'd invented. A lyre. Apollo was so enchanted with the music that he forgot all about being angry. So what's the moral? The moral? Hermes asked. Goodness, you act like it's a fable. It's a true story. Does truth have a moral? How about this? Stealing is not always bad. I don't think my mom would like that moral.
Rats are delicious, suggested George.
What does that have to do with the story? Martha demanded.
Nothing, George said, but I'm hungry.
I've got it, Hermes said. Young people don't always do what they're told, but if they can pull it off and do something wonderful, sometimes they escape punishment. How's that? You're saying I should go anyways, I said, even without permission. Hermes' eyes twinkled. Martha, may I have the first package, please? Martha opened her mouth. and kept opening until it was as wide as my arm. She belched out a stainless steel canister, an old-fashioned lunchbox thermos with a black plastic top. The sides of the thermos were enameled with red and yellow ancient Greek scenes. A hero killing a lion, a hero lifting up Cerberus, the three-headed dog. "That's Hercules," I said. "But how?" "Never question a gift," Hermes chided. "This is collector's items from Hercules Busts Heads, the first season." "Hercules Busts Heads? Great show," Hermes sighed. "Back before Hephaestus TV was all reality programming, of course. The thermos would be much more if I had the whole lunchbox."
"Or if it hadn't been in Martha's mouth," George added.
"I'll get you for that." Martha began chasing him around the caduceus. "Wait a minute," I said. "This is a gift?" "One of two," Hermes said. "Go on, pick it up." I almost dropped it because it was freezing cold on one side and burning hot on the other. The weird thing was, when I turned the thermos, the side facing the ocean, north, was always the cold side. "It's a compass," I said. Hermes looked surprised. "Very clever. I never thought of that. But its intended use is a bit more dramatic. Uncap it, and you will release the winds from the four corners of the earth to speed you on your way. Not now, and please, when the time comes, only unscrew the lid a tiny bit. The winds are a bit like me, always restless. Should all four escape at once. But I'm sure you'll be careful. And now my second gift. George?"
"She's touching me,"
George complained as he and Martha slithered around the pole. "She's always touching you," Hermes said. "You're intertwined. And if you don't stop that, you'll get knotted again." The snake stopped wrestling. George unhinged his jaw and coughed up a little plastic bottle filled with chewable vitamins. "You're kidding," I said. "Are those minotaur-shaped?" Hermes picked up the bottle and rattled it. "The lemon ones, yes. The grape ones are Furies, I think? Or are they Hydras? At any rate, these are potent. Don't take one unless you really, really need it." "How will I know if I really, really need it?" "You'll know, believe me. 9 essential vitamins, minerals, amino acids. Oh, everything you need to feel yourself again." He tossed me the bottle. Thanks," I said. "But Lord Hermes, why are you helping me?" He gave me a melancholy smile. "Perhaps because I hope that you can save my people on this quest, Percy. Not just your friend Grover." I stared at him. "You don't mean Luke?" Hermes didn't answer. "Look," I said. "Lord Hermes, I mean thanks and everything, but you might as well take back your gifts. Luke can't be saved. Even if I could find him, he told me he wanted to tear down Olympus stone by stone. He betrayed everybody he knew. He hates you especially." Hermes gazed up at the stars. "My dear young cousin, there's one thing I've learned over the eons. It's that you can't give up on your family, no matter how tempting they make it. It doesn't matter if they hate you, or embarrass you, or simply don't appreciate your genius for inventing the internet." "You invented the internet?" "It was my idea," Martha said.
"Rats are delicious,"
George said. "It was my idea," Hermes said. "I mean the internet, not the rats. But that's not the point. Percy, do you understand what I'm saying about family?" I'm not sure." "You will someday." Hermes got up, brushed the sand off his legs. "In the meantime, I must be going." "You have 60 calls to return," Martha said.
and 1,038 emails, George added, not counting the offers for online discount ambrosia.
And you, Percy, Hermes said, you have a shorter deadline than you realize to complete your quest. Your friends should be coming right about now. I heard Annabeth's voice calling my name from the sand dunes. Tyson, too, was shouting from a little bit further away. I hope I packed well for you, Hermes said. I do have some experience with travel. He snapped his fingers, and 3 yellow duffel bags appeared at my feet. Waterproof, of course. If you ask nicely, your father should be able to help with you reach the ship. Ship? Hermes pointed. Sure enough, a big cruise ship was cutting across Long Island Sound, its white and gold lights glowing against the dark water. Wait, I said. I don't understand any of this. I haven't agreed to go. I'd make up your mind in the next 5 minutes, if I were you, Hermes advised. That's when the harpies will come to eat you. Now, good night, cousin. And dare I say it, may the gods go with you. He opened his hands, and the caduceus flew into it. Good luck, Martha told me.
Bring me back a rat, George said.
The caduceus changed into a cell phone, and Hermes slipped it into his pocket. He jogged off down the beach. 20 paces away, he shimmered and vanished, leaving me alone with the thermos, a bottle of chewable vitamins, and 5 minutes to make an impossible decision. Phew. That was longer than I expected. Guys, whoa. We are 106 pages into this here book. We're kind of... Good lord. Yeah, we're kind of flying through this one. Like I said, there's only 20 chapters instead of 22. So we will probably mosey through this one a little bit quicker than the last one. That was a sweet chapter. I'm sad I won't be able to do Tantalus's voice very much in the coming chapters. So I really gave it my all this time. Heck yeah. And dude, freaking poor Tyson. Can we talk about Tyson? Can we talk about Tyson? That beautiful, beautiful little Cyclops, man. He's had a rough go of it. Yet he's still like ignorant enough to be like happy most of the time. But his ignorance was washed away a little bit in that scene where he was kind of recognizing that maybe his father doesn't love him all that much after all. Percy does love him though, and I think Annabeth grows. He grows on Annabeth. Well, guys, we'll return next week to find out if Percy, to find out if what the decision will be for Percy. Does he stay at the camp and leave it all up to Clarice, or does he leave anyways, possibly pursued by harpies, and try desperately to save his friend? I like Hermes a lot too. He's just a good guy. I feel like I could have stood to give him even more of like a big business guy kind of voice. But I wasn't entirely sure how how to do big business without like having a medium tone. I don't know. I wanted his voice to be a little bit higher, since most of my guy characters I tend to bring down lower in the vocal range. Yeah, dude, that sly devil, or that sly god, rather, is a good dude. Oh, all right. It's pretty late already, so, and we actually went for nearly 2 hours, which is pretty cool. Thanks for hanging in there with me. And we even got a new follower today. Some good stuff. Not that the arbitrary number matters all that much, but, and on top of the new follower, I feel we had some good discussion. These 2 chapters were quite excellent. It really, like, there already was kind of the first mini adventure of them getting back to Camp Half-Blood, but this next chapter is what marks the actual catalyst that drives them into like the main adventure, which means things will only get more exciting from here. Just cool. I'm excited. Again, reading through these books again has been an absolute delight. I'm grateful that you guys have decided to come along with me. All right. Much love. I'm going to start playing the outro. Mwah. Thanks everybody for coming. And remember to spread the merriment this week. Hope to see you tomorrow for chapters 8 and 9. Alright. Have a good night, guys. Sleep well. And again, remember to be merry. Alright, love you guys. Bye.